Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we are thrilled to be talking to the creative team responsible for the hit CBS show, East New York, which centers around the life of Regina Hayward, the newly promoted deputy inspector of the 74th Precinct in East New York, a working class neighborhood at the eastern edge of Brooklyn. With family ties to the area, she is determined to deploy creative methods to repair the relationship between the citizens of the community and those who are sworn to protect them. But first, she has the daunting task of getting her officers and detectives on board. As some are skeptical of her promotion and others resist the change she is desperate to make. East New York stars Amanda Warren as Deputy Inspector Regina Hayward, and also Mike Flynn is the co-creator and executive producer and co-showrunner of East New York. The series is produced by Warner Brothers Television. East New York airs on Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Pacific Time on CBS, and it's available to stream live and on demand on Paramount Plus. We're going to start things today by having Mike make some quick opening remarks about your inspiration for the series before the Q&A begins. Mike?
Hey, Gil, thanks for having me and everyone else. I think the show kind of was born out of what we've been seeing happening over the past 2.5 years in America. We've seen a lot of, the fracture between the police and the community. And, everyone posed a question like of what can be done, so to speak. As us as artists, we have the responsibility to reflect what's going on in our times and to also pose, certain situations and certain, thoughts that could, work their way into actual life, And one of those things were, what does a cop show look like in 2022? And how do we engage audiences in a certain particular way? How do we, get insight from, just by what's happening in the world, and how do we accurately portray cops and the people that they service on television. And by, having a character like Regina Hayward be the forefront of this, so to speak, be an agent of change, that we're looking for in this country to mend the relationship between the cops and the community. I think that was one way of approaching it and seeing what could happen. I think also being that we portray a community like East New York is one that hasn't necessarily been, positively portrayed in the media, so to speak, first and foremost. But I think, we've given an opportunity to, come at it from a artistic and creative standpoint and really tell the stories of the people in this community, what their relationships are to the cops and the police, and also the police who live and work in this town. I think there's a wealth of stories to be told and a wealth of characters to explore. From the cops to the people who walk the streets and live in these neighborhoods, work and live in East New York.
Wow. Well, like I said, the members love the show, and we actually had a difficult time determining which group of members, because there were so many. We would have began and ended with introductions of the members. So this select group of members that I'm about to introduce you to are the lucky ones who'll be speaking with you today. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to our facilitator, Katia Woods in Philadelphia, Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Jill Monroe in Los Angeles, Kimberly Singleton in New York, Nancy Green in Baltimore, Dana Abercrombie in New York, and Karan Lenoir in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
How's your head?
It's fabulous, stupendous.
Doesn't have to be,
Police, put the gun down. It does.
It's the city so nice, they name
My name is Regina Hayward. I've been a street cop most of my career.
You want to work in this neighborhood?
I love this neighborhood. I also want members to start living in East New York.
I'll do it.
I have to go into that project to save you.
The day I need you to save me is the day I put my papers in.
I irritate people. Nonetheless, have you made any determinations to your executive officer?
You're on.
Really?
I worry about people because that's what I do. Now, I don't want you not calling for backup, because that's what you do.
All together, we are going to find the killer.
I'm right there with you, Regina.
Wanna ask me how's my head?
You gotta love this city.
East New York, new series Sunday, October 2nd on CBS.
Hello, Amanda and Mike. Kim Singleton with Consider It Black-led television show and podcast out of New York City. And Gil is right. I absolutely love the series and what I've seen so far. And the character, Deputy Inspector Regina Haywood, reminds me so much of the current police commissioner, Keishant Sewell in New York City. And the question is for both of you. One, have you met her? And two, what law enforcement people have you studied in order to make the components of this series so authentic? We'll start with Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me all, and good afternoon to each and every one of you. What I have not met her, unfortunately, but I have had insight through the communities in which I have lived in, that I spent COVID in. I'm also from New York City. I've found that I've gotten a lot of perspective from people on the street, and also people that I've reached out to in correspondence, which have been most helpful, but again, because of the climate, have chosen to remain confidential in our discussion. So it's been very insightful with all the information that I've been given. But again, I know that Mike and Billy have had quite a time with our wonderful writers and creating stories, and you know, we've just been really grounded in telling the truth and tapping into the human condition as best we can with the scripts that we've been given, which is just beautiful, beautiful storytelling. So we've been really focused on that. And then perspective as a civilian, as an American citizen. A great many of us are New Yorkers, or have spent decades in New York as theater vets, Ruben Santiago Hudson and Richard Kind, Jimmy Smits. So we're I think collectively picking from everything.
Yeah, just to jump on Amanda, what she was saying, I also have not met the current police commissioner, haven't had the opportunity to meet her. But I think, you know, a character like Regina Haywood, she's I would say she's an amalgamation of a variety of different leaders who we've seen throughout history, and, you know, leaders who have been faced with adversity upon starting the position with the caliber that she's taken on. You know, I've also drawn inspiration from the women in my life and the women who I've you know, looked up to throughout history and in my community as well, to really understand where Regina Haywood is coming from in terms of how to, you know, engage with, you know, the community, the members of the community. You know, she treats them as a human being first and foremost, and, you know, we get to see who she is as a human being. You know, we strip away the layers. You know, why she's doing this job, what's compelling her to you know, really thrive or want to thrive in a community like East New York. And so, you know, we're still continuing to learn the character and really understand, you know, what her end goal is, you know, throughout this entire process. And, you know, if we're lucky enough, we'll be able to you know, give that to the audiences.
Well, great job. I cannot wait to see the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so my question is for both of you. One of the things that I found very interesting about the show was how nurturing Amanda is, and also her relationship with Jimmy Smits's character. And I wanted to know if you could go into that a bit, because that's not something that you tend to see very often, especially with police shows, where the lead character, especially a Black woman, is, you know, portrayed that way.
Well, I'll start as far as a character standpoint. You know, I think that their relationship, you know, they have a history in terms of Amanda, I mean, not Amanda, and Regina Haywood, you know, coming up through the ranks of the police department and finding a mentor, you know, a person of color who's you know, above her in rank. And, you know, I think they want each other to win. You know, Suarez, he really wants to see Regina Haywood thrive in this position, and, you know, he knows what it's going to take. But also, we're going to also see the inner workings or the bureaucracy that both of them, him being a chief and her being a deputy inspector, have to cross into. What kind of hurdles that they're going to have to overcome, what adversity that they have to kind of fight against, coming from the political higher powers, or as simple as members of the community, in terms of how are they able to bridge this gap. So I think that's just that relationship. It's a mutual respect between the two of them, and they both understand of what their jobs entail, but at the same time they both know that they have to be police officers and first and foremost, and what that does is it opens up variety of windows of opportunity, but at the same time it could also fall into the traps of or just this particular stereotype that we don't want to necessarily see them fall under, and how do they lift themselves up out of that.
What makes the scripts so fantastic and nuanced compared to maybe other stories about law enforcement is that you can, a lot like going with a verse line. I have 2 theater degrees, one from NYU Tisch, and then the other one's from the Yale School of Drama and Acting. And with Shakespeare, you follow the line. You don't follow the punctuation of the argument. You follow the line. And my only mixed race professor ever in acting was Peter Francis James, who is an incredible actor, an incredible master of the form and of the craft. He just simply said, change with the changes. And that's what I do with the script, is just change with the changes, and knowing what her characteristics are, what her attributes are, the gift that she has in compartmentalizing each and every moment, and knowing that, like another instructor I had, Rick Sordelay, who's a combat teacher, he taught me that a moment is as long as it needs to be. And I think with Regina, she really acknowledges, respects, and honors that. So if there is a moment of tenderness, a moment of compassion, a moment of genuine care, kindness, it's there, and it lives there until it changes. And so, as far as the maternal aspect of it is, I went to a school in Manhattan called the Professional Performing Arts School. I'm from Kips Bay. I'm born and raised in New York. And the thing about it is just, I've been playing mothers since I was 14. I played Mama Europe in a musical called Once on This Island. And it seems as though I've been playing mothers ever since. Ironically enough, she is not, she has no children of her own, as you saw at the top of episode 2 when the fantastic John Earl Jones, and that's another, just a side note, the Broadway actors and the New York actors that are about to blaze people's screens in their homes, it's just crazy. It's just out of control. It's nuts. And so yeah, I've just been playing moms my entire life, and not a mom myself yet, like Regina, but I do have a nurturing quality. I attribute that to my own mother who raised me, and my dad, who's also just great and kind-hearted. So it's not much of a reach to tap into the compassionate element, which also overlaps with being maternal, I think. So yeah, it's not much of a departure to me. I think what is going to be refreshing is just seeing that, cops can be that way. It's a departure from the portrayals that we've been seeing.
Nice. Thank you so much. That was great. Great. Yeah, I really see that. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Thanks.
So it's great.
We're really excited to do it every day. And so the fact that it's on the screens now, we're just very, very happy that it's been so well received.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Thank you.
Hi, Jill Monroe, Access to Life. My question is for both of you. In procedurals, there's a type of rhythm, a pattern that we obviously have to put out because that's part of what the expectations are. But what I enjoyed about this show is the angles that you took and the way that the stories surrounding Regina sort of evolved in her challenges. So what I want to ask you both is, Mike, for you, starting with when you were creating this, where did you want to center Regina as far as in the world of things? Because there's a standard approach, especially maybe involving a Black woman, that you could have taken, but you took it, I feel, the viewpoint slightly different. And then continuing, Amanda, with your performance, there were moments when it could have been elevated, but you kept it even, and it did so much for the scene. So I want to know how collectively that was on the page and creating it, and then once you received it, bringing that back.
I think in terms of the conceit of her character, where we wanted to center her was, she was kind of tasked with this almost insurmountable, proposition of, running this precinct, which, on paper and in reality, it's historically it's had, a high rate of crime in the neighborhood. But, I think, from her being a deputy inspector, this is her first time doing this job in this position and in this role. And so, I think she wanted to compartmentalize what she had to do versus, trying to do everything at once. And because, if she tried to tackle everything at once, she was going to probably not, get anything accomplished. So I think, by first and foremost, she wanted to get to know the cops and who she wanted to lead, because she can't do anything if they're not on her side. And as we see in the pilot, there is a split of differences of opinions within our own precincts. So by her having to, get to understand and know where her cops are coming from that she's leading, I think that was a great starting point for her to start inward and then move outward with her job and then with the community. Hopefully that she'll continue to, peel back the layers and understand, what that means for her going forward.
Regina's definitely risen through the ranks, so it's not lost on her how eager she is to get things done. With that eagerness, again, meets some fragility in the fact that she has a mixed reception, right? So we see in the pilot that, and that's not much of a departure from my own experience, unfortunately, being seen as a diversity hire. And absolutely. Where I meet Regina is in how she handles it. Getting through the ivy walls of Yale at the time that I went through it was a sensitive navigation. And I think with Regina, it is a sensitive navigation. And
that's right.
So what she's trying to do, and we all have our stories, we all know these stories, so I'm not going to waste our time giving those people all the shine and the glory, right? But what we are going to do is deal with it head on and meet that passion, that eagerness with what she needs to get done. So it's a kind of let the chips fall where they may. I'm going in, I'm stepping into the fire, and let's see what I can do. Let's see how much I can push. And ironically enough, you see that most with her mentor, who's always the most for her. But I'm interested to see how potential adversaries, the ones that she may think she has and the ones that she doesn't even know exist yet, how they respond. I have a feeling there's a response coming. I haven't had those scripts yet, but I'm
they're coming. They are coming.
She's got to meet certain statistics you'll hear throughout the season, ComStat, which are numbers and statistics, crime rates and things throughout communities and precincts. She'll also have to answer for that. Don't forget it's East New York, and unfortunately it rivals Brownsville with a lot of the rates. So she's also trying to figure that out, and we'll have to answer for that. Whether or not it happens by the time we finish our season, I genuinely don't know, but it's all very interesting. She's a woman with really alpha qualities, and I think that's really refreshing, that Her tenderness shows up in a genuine spot. It is not pushed by our writers. It is not pushed by our ensemble. It is just there. And we just play the subtext and try to read in between the lines so that things can be rooted in character, the human condition, so that y'all can enjoy it and walk away with an opinion that you can trust, not something that someone is telling you, like so many news programs try to do with us. But we are trusting you with the story to come to your own conclusions, and we leave openings at the end of every episode for you all to think, because we trust you and believe that you all are very smart to do that. So it's a little different in how we play subtext and how we play the lines, and that's going to be really fun for our audience too.
Hello, everyone. Katya Woods, Couple Social, the Philadelphia Tribune. Mike, you talked about, wanting to show a different side of policing. Do you think that is going to be a hurdle for you to have that conversation, seeing that, a lot of people look at police shows as, for lack of a better word, as propaganda, right? Mm-hmm. It's an excuse to not hold the police accountable, and that's often a struggle that regular citizens have in wanting to know why isn't good police holding bad police accountable? Why aren't they weeding out the bad apples? Is this something that you are looking to explore with Regina? Because I think she has the capacity to kind of, like, if you were to introduce that, what we've seen so far of her, to bring that as a credible storyline.
I think in terms of holding, having Regina Haywood hold bad cops, holding them accountable for their actions, I think she's going to do it in her own way. I think she's going to call out, the discrepancies that she's seen, within the department, throughout her career. But at the same time, she's not going to let that hold her back from doing her job. I think by having her focused on doing her job and what she needs to, in her mind, what needs to get done correctly is her reaction to that, holding police accountable for their past actions. I know that people want to, understand, like, are there cops out there that do that? But I think there are cops that do it in their own way. They tend to go against the grain. They tend to approach scenarios differently that's necessarily not the most popular opinion, but by having a character like Regina, not necessarily following the rule book, and going about it the way that she feels like is the best way to do it possible. I think that's where we can kind of fall in that gray area, if she is calling people out or is she not. I think what we've seen in the pilot is that, she's going to tell her cops that she has her back as long as they do their job. And I think that's a strong line of declaration to make in order to get people on your side. And so, this cop shows, at the end of the day, I think, people want to see, cops get the bad guys. They want to follow along with the mystery, but at the same time, they want to understand and get to and follow the characters who are doing this particular job and why they're doing the job, and some of those answers to those questions, as far as, are they going to hold cops accountable? Maybe. I think Regina, she understands the ramifications of calling cops to the carpet and what that means for her job and what that means for the people in the department, and the perception of cops on cops and the perception on community on cops. So I think there's a lot to continue to unpack, and I think we're kind of marching towards that goal in the future.
Maybe even also to tack on to everything that Mike said, also the administrative and bureaucratic issues.
Absolutely.
That really, really huge part in some of the chaos that unfortunately ensues and the mayhem that we end up seeing on the news. So that will also be interesting to see how this series, God willing, lives in the gray.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Carolyn Purser. Here's What Happened in Karen Toss podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I really enjoyed the first two episodes that we were able to screen for this. And Mike and Amanda, this question is for you. The thing that interests me about this is how we're going to see the softer and more vulnerable and more feminine sides of Regina, because I think it's really interesting. The show starts out with her at a nail salon getting her nails done. And there's little moments where she compliments another woman about her nails. And I love that we get to see her at these moments of her being herself, not as a cop, but just as a woman who lives in New York and who has a community around East New York. So Mike, as the creator and the writer, can you talk about how you are going to explore Regina being a woman and having friendships, because she needs to have female friendship because she is surrounded by men. There's only one other female character and she's white. So I'm like, is there going to be like a sisterhood of Black women around Regina to uplift her, to support her? And for you, Amanda, can you talk about playing Regina, who from now we've seen she only has antagonists around her. She only has men who are opposing her, whether she's a woman racially, as a superior, because like she's gonna have like issues with insubordination. So for you, can you talk about playing this character and how you're looking forward to having moments where we get to see Regina just be Regina?
You want to go first, Mike?
Yeah. I would say to answer your question, Carolyn, yeah, we're definitely going to unfold who Regina is outside of this job. What kind of lifestyle, what kind of friends she has. I think that's important, that it serves better for the character and that we're watching week in and week out. For me personally, I think that's important for us to like really see, because, as much as we see ourselves on television, we want to see, the humanistic side. We want to see the families. Like I have aunts, I have a mom, and I have sisters, I have cousins. I have a beautiful partner and a young daughter that that are going to see themselves on television. So I think that's important for us to show. And to answer your question, yes, we will see like a support group that she has around her, but at the same time, it'll be as rich as we continue to unroll that aspect of her life out.
Yeah, one thing that I loved about the pilot and what really pulled me in was the open with the nail salon. It really was seeing a female character embraced in her femininity without sacrificing anything else, any other toughness or anything like that. That was really appealing to me. And then, we have tapped into some other elements. The other great thing about the season is that you're going to, rather than go home with maybe the two leads of the show, you're going to go home with all of us. So there will be moments where you see Quinlan and Suarez at home in personal spaces. That's always very insightful for an audience. And but yes, you will tap into some of Regina's stuff. But again, like the rest of this show, it's like being cooked in a Dutch oven. There's nothing microwavable about this show. It is low and slow. It is low and slow, and everything will come together. And hopefully what our wish is for our audience is that when that lid is popped open and all that yumminess is coming out, you get to see and enjoy what we've been preparing for you and really sit with it after the season is finished and aired. So everything comes slowly, but it will come and fill you to the brim,
Absolutely.
Great, thank you so much.
Abercrombie, from the coalition. Thank you so much for doing this. First of all, Amanda, PPAS alumni, yay.
Stop.
Yes.
Stop.
My question for both of you is, the show balances what it's like to be a Black woman who is a sergeant, but also a cop. So that has its own beliefs people are already coming in with already. So I wanted to know the balance between Black woman and also a police officer, but on top of that, sending a white police officer to live in the projects as well. So can you talk about that balance and how people will kind of view that?
I would say, it is a delicate balance, and I think we want to tackle it in the same way that we would see, a Black woman in the corporate America space, a Black woman in, sports, so to speak, in coaching roles. I think there's a certain level of just the tenacity that they have that to approach their jobs. And so, her being, she understands what she's up against. I don't think we want to hang a hat on her being a Black woman in that dominated space, but we will by the stories in which we tell, and through the characters in which she interacts with. I think we'll get a sense that, maybe she's holding a certain, a certain weight on her shoulders to perform, not just as a Black woman, but just as a cop in general. And I think there's a sense of, what does it mean to be a Black cop in America today? Are you a traitor? Or are you an Uncle Tom? Or are you, a crusader? I think those are all, areas of, to explore, but, what they mean, from different perspectives on the side of the cops and the side of community. But, I think at the end of the day, she's going to, she knows who she is, and I don't think she's going to have to really answer to anybody or explain herself to anybody, at the end of the day.
I think that a lot like a lot of our stories might be is that people try to tell you who they think you are and try to make you believe that. And, no matter what, it could be about we're not just talking about just race, it could be anything, people always want to have that power over you to try to push you down and kind of, because they are not able to elevate themselves, and that's okay. However, when you do come to a place of peace, of self-worth, of self-love, like I have, like I'm choosing to believe Regina has, you walk in unapologetic about anything. I'm here. I've arrived. And that can be very intimidating to people who are not secure, who are not confident, who don't have a neutralized, healthy ego. It is off-putting. It makes people shift in their seats just a bit when you just present yourself as you are and take a lot of pride in that in just presentation. And with that, I think comes a lot of intimidation, and you start to hear people like, oh, she's an inspector. She thinks that she's this. No, she's never thought anything. She's just been present and has arrived to do her job, period, and is unbothered by whatever you think. And I think me bringing in that particular part of my walk, of my journey, really helps in feeding her skill set and being strong and being unbothered and unintimidated by her coworkers and superiors and inferiors, and as far as rank goes. It's really about being unapologetic and just saying, I'm here and I'm not making any excuses about anything. Are you? And letting that, because a lot of the time, there's another really great show that I love, another Warner Brothers show, where an Asian actor who's portraying a character says to one of the Black actresses, they, and whoever they is, I don't know who they is, but they want us to be the success story, but we're the success. And that's how I'm rolling. I heard that, and that's how I roll. I'm not your story. I'm not your prize. I'm here, and I'm to be celebrated just as I would celebrate my fellow man or woman. And she's grounded and secure in that. And there's a lot of power in that. So that makes people cower. That makes people want to attack. That makes people want to think different things, that's really not there. So, you'll see some of that too. You'll see some of that.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you.
My name is Karan. I'm from Karanism.com and love music pleasure. And I am really inspired by this show, but I'm curious about your training. I'd like to know how you trained for this role and how this process may have reframed, or if it reframed, how you view police and policing, knowing the history of police in this country.
Sure. I trained by shooting, so I've been going to the gun range before this. So I trained in the athletic perform like any craftsman or woman would do. You know, when we started pre-production, before we started pre-production, rather, I was, you know, waking up at 3:30 a.m., nothing to do, fiddling my thumbs, just trying to make sure that I get that grogginess and clogginess out of the way so that when I arrive to set, even sitting in hair and makeup, that I have the energy, that I have the presence to perform as the, you know, #1 on the call sheet. It's still an ensemble show. This is not called Regina. It's called East New York. I just want to make that very clear. So it's very rooted in our ensemble. And, you know, I watched all the cable news networks. I watched them all to see perspective. I spoke with cops. I asked them what we get wrong and what we don't, which is a lot of the time why people don't want to be named, because they were very candid with me and really shared very vulnerable experiences. And with that, I would say came more compassion than I thought I would have for a lot of the situations that I see on the news, seeing a different perspective, how it is approached, what the rules are, what they can and cannot do. That's not to say that there have been injustices or murders or things like that. That's not to say that. But what that is to say is that there are genuinely two sides to every story, and then there is the truth. And I have been tapped into trying to understand both sides, trying to live in the gray the way Regina lives in the gray, and knowing that I'm not a cop. So there's a lot of stuff that I will never understand until I'm in their shoes with a holster and a duty belt all day. That thing is so, you know, it's just, it's a lot. And I've spoken with people of color who are cops, you know, all different sorts of perspectives, and just trying to understand what they're really trying to get right and what their honest endeavors are and what their honest vulnerabilities are. I wasn't expecting to get that much from them, especially how emotional they are when it comes to what they do, because they are genuinely in the business of saving lives. And I have not met a bad cop personally, but I do know that they're out there because of what has happened in our society. But yeah, I think that part of my responsibility, just if I were playing somebody that maybe I, Amanda, would not like, but I'm portraying, is to try to understand. Maybe it's not always some compassion, but to try to understand so I can get through what I'm getting through. I've seen interviews with Ray Fiennes talking about Schindler's List and how, you know, how challenging that was for him too. It's part of the job to understand both sides, and then you have your own truth as the person portraying it. So it's tricky and it's difficult to navigate, but it was nice to see that I wasn't right about a lot of things when it came to law enforcement. That was very nice to know, because I had a very strong, what I thought was a grounded opinion, and it gave me nothing but perspective to really see where a lot of men and women go and what they have to let go of when they take it home.
Thank you so much for that. The relationships with you as a woman in power in this series really speak volumes.
Thank you so much.
I thank you for your sensitivity in taking this role and in embracing this role and developing this character, because I think it's really important to our culture to see women in power who push forward. So thank you.
And I'm very grateful that, you know, hopefully this starts a conversation where we can rebuild, really, honestly, between these two, you know, communities, the law enforcement community and the communities they serve. I really think it's time to begin the conversation so that we can get to mending in whatever way that is. But I think it only starts with a conversation, and a genuine, honest one, filled with care and kindness and respect for the other. So that's what I'm grateful for. And I thank you all for watching and tuning in and the support.
Yeah, I do as well. It means a lot. You know, we just, at the onset, we didn't know what kind of, you know, reception we were going to get, you know, especially from Black people and Black and brown people, you know. And so it's been a nice positive feedback so far. So, you know, hopefully we can continue to, you know, get these stories out and that they feel reflected, that they feel that are truthful and honest, and just being great storytellers at the end of the day. I think it would get our jobs done.
Thank you so much for both showing up the way you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike and Amanda, again, kudos. This is a terrific show. We are certainly looking forward to supporting it and watching it, doing whatever we need to do to ensure that it receives the recognition and receives the type of run that it deserves. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, thank you for watching this edition of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.